Good evening, Dallas Regional Chamber. My name is Edward, and I am accompanied tonight by Vanessa, Stephanie, Chance, and John. So today I want to start off by telling you a little personal story about my past. My father joined the U.S. Army after coming into this country as an immigrant in 1976. 20 years later, he retired from the U.S. Army in 1996. Soon after that, maybe a couple of months, he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. This was due to typical U.S. Army soldiers doing typical U.S. Army soldier things, spending money that they don't have, putting everything on credit, so on and so on, to the point to where after he got out of the Army and after that steady paycheck ceased, he wasn't able to pay for all of the bills. And being the only one in the family to work and to pay the bills, again, led us to bankruptcy. So fast forward a couple of years, it's 2000, I graduate from high school. I also joined the U.S. Army, and no less than 2 years afterward, I'm in over $10,000 in credit card debt. I'm 20 years old, and it may as well have been $1 million. So, in saying all that, what am I trying to impart on the chamber? I want to impart that poverty is a generational problem. It's not just something that is a victim of circumstance type of situation. It's a learned behavior. I learned throughout my childhood that if you wanted something, you put it on plastic, you put it on a credit card. And because of that, I did the exact same thing when I came of age, and I got every single credit card that was offered to me at the time. So just some key statistics in Dallas that you all already see. 1.3 million people in the city of Dallas live in poverty, which equates to 40% of Dallas's population, nearly half. And in the nation, we're not doing very much in terms of personal finance. Only 5 states in the nation offer a personal finance class as a requirement to graduate. Thus, only 30% of our high school students get a personal finance education, and that's only one course. There are other states, like Texas, that offer a personal finance course as an elective. However, every high school student that graduates will soon learn that in life, personal finance is not an elective. So, it's very important because already 1/3 of high school students use a credit card, whether that be mom and dad's card or their own card because they turned 18 in high school. So the exposure to credit happens very, very early. Now, this is the reason why we've chosen to partner up with Capital One, who's based in Plano in a 7-building, 3,000 employee campus. And they stepped up to change banking for good and to partner with us to go to the schools in the DISD to teach personal finance and give them that education that they're not afforded. And so some of you may be wondering, so what's the difference between what you guys are doing and what charitable organizations already do? Charitable organizations and public assistance do one thing and one thing only. They give the person the fish. What we want to do is we want to give that person the fishing rod, we want to give them the tackle box, we want to give them all the tools they need to succeed financially. And so, next question, how are we going to do all this? And to explain that, we pass it over to Steph.
So our plan is designated to try to reduce poverty by targeting low-income family members. We are going to target them by going to high schools and talking to junior high school students as well as senior high school students. So that way we can help educate them at an earlier age as far as find like 3 major topics in the financial industry, which would be their credit, budget, and loans. As far as like what is credit, how do I make my credit better, why do I need credit, loans, just like different types of loans, different terms used in loans, how do I get a loan, risks associated with loans, the positive things about loans, and then budget, how do I make a budget, why do I need a budget, and how do I stick to a budget. Can we do the question? You had a question?
5 minutes.
Oh, sorry. And then as far as how we're gonna go about this, we're gonna meet with 2 high schools a month. We're gonna go and set up a presentation where there'll be, it's like an expositions type setting where there's gonna be a booth for each topic that's gonna be discussed. There'll be volunteers both from Capital One as well as the schools that are gonna be there. And then in between the presentation, there will be lunch provided for the students and the volunteers. And at the end of the presentation, there will be goodie bags given to each student with more pamphlets with information as far as the topics that were covered. And then as far as the budget goes and staffing will be discussed by Vanessa as far as how we came up with.
So as Stephanie mentioned earlier, I'll be talking about staffing. Our primary goal when it comes to staffing is to make sure the students are immersed in a classroom-like environment. This is not going to be a free day for the students, although it is going to be fun. It is going to be a great learning environment. In order to do that, we decided to stick to a 17-to-1 ratio, the same ratio that DISD holds in their district and high schools. That's the DISD average. So, like Stephanie mentioned earlier, our staff is going to be comprised mostly of Capital One volunteers and teachers that are already present at the school. And we hope to keep it at a 2-to-1 ratio with Capital One volunteers being twice as much as teachers on staff. We will need additional staff, but we hope that the staff is going to come mostly from the school. This staff is going to be maintenance staff, it's going to be meal prep staff, and it's going to be security staff. We are really excited to employ keynote speakers to speak at the event. These speakers will be able to add more credibility to our project and more credibility to our purpose. Just talk more about budgeting is Chance.
So to break down the budget, we're going to have volunteer staffing, and that's going to come from Capital One, which will have about 75 employees, which is the average of about how we think we need for high school, because every high school is different on what we need. And so they make about $15 an hour on average that the employees we'd be using, and we need to pay them for 8 hours a day, and since we're visiting 48 high schools, we pay them for about 48 days, and on top of that, we're going to need to do mileage reimbursement for the employees, because it's about 60 miles round trip from Dallas to Plano for the employees, and we do about 53.5 cents or 54 cents a mile for 70 volunteers, which comes out to $115,000 a year. And then we'd also add an additional security to the schools, which would be 2 security guards, paid about $25 an hour to help, since they'll all be combined in one area. And they'll be paid for 8 hours for 48 days as well. And then we'd also need to provide lunch, which we decide on Chick-fil-A, because everyone loves Chick-fil-A. And it'd be about $7.25 per meal, and that would feed all employees and students that would be for that event. And we gave a breakdown, because we're also going to be taking materials like banners, tablecloths, printing out brochures, and gift bags. And the gift bags will contain like pens, papers, a hacky sack, and like phone chargers and stuff like that. For all the materials, we'd be running about $122,750. There's a breakdown of the graph as well for the percentages, and then John will do the benefits.
These financial literacy events that we will be holding, we are giving the students the fishing rod and the tackle box. So the benefits that we will be giving to these students incorporated are, we will help them recognize fraud. Everyone sees these get-rich-quick schemes on the internet, or the scams that people click on and it winds up hacking your bank account or getting viruses. We will teach them how to avoid this and thus avoiding debt. It is never too early for students to learn about retirement, but more importantly, it is important for the students to learn how to save. Now, whenever they are saving, we'll teach them how to stretch a dollar and balance a checkbook, how to correctly take out loans for themselves, and basically save that money up for a rainy day. Now, everybody goes through these financial ruts and peaks. Along with the ruts, we are trying to teach them how to cope with these extremes. So whenever they are going through these hard times financially, they will be able to keep a level head and not make an emotional decision. whenever they are going through these hard times in these poverty-stricken families, they will need to learn how to seek help whenever they are going through these hard times, because most of the time people will try and will themselves out of these financial circumstances and push themselves farther into debt. Here at Capital One, we will teach the kids the tools, how to gain their own personal finances, how to money management, most importantly. And with all these tools that we'll be teaching them, it will not only help the students, but they can bring this back to their parents, and they can kind of explain how to their parents how to use all of these tools and thus try and push them through or from the poverty level. By doing this, it can help stimulate the economy around them, from taking them off of Medicaid, or if they are the lower income families, can help stimulate the economy around them. Now that here at Capital One, we are all experts, so all of our knowledge that we will be passing on to the students, they can take as valid, and hopefully it will help them pursue better finances. Now, it's not only advantageous to the students, but it is also advantageous to Capital One as well. It helps the reputation for Capital One shine a more positive light from the banking into the community, so it can help build accounts and help students come back to Capital One if they ever do need more help. And to wrap it up, let me pass it back to you.
Thanks, John. So after talking about budgeting, and staffing, and numbers, and pie charts, and so on and so on, financial literacy is only about the numbers, right? No. Financial literacy is about, just like John alluded to, teaching young adults, specifically junior, senior level students in high school, how to cope with the emotional purchases that they might make in the future, or they might be tempted to make in the future. So it's not about the numbers. We're also imparting some knowledge on how to cope with life. So Capital One's mission, the company that we chose to partner up with, is to change banking for good. I mentioned that earlier in our introduction. What does that mean? It's kind of a double entendre. We're changing banking for the good of people, and we're also changing banking for good, forever. So the reason we chose Capital One as our partner was to change people's financial outlook, because our mission really aligns with Capital One's mission. Ultimately, what we want to do is, once we've mastered DISD and we've gotten into a flow, we want to go to other school districts in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, those that need the financial education, those that come from the types of backgrounds that you see those types of patterns that I almost fell into. And in doing so, later on, years down the road, and this is a continuous partnership that we're asking of the Chamber and Capital One, that years down the road, that Capital One and their business analysts can do analytical research and see if these programs are actually helping these students after graduation. And in doing so, we'll have the numbers, and we'll have the ammunition to go to our Texas legislation and maybe even change our curriculum in high school to make sure that we not only have one but several personal finance courses to equip these students, so that we have a bunch of well-equipped Texans out in our economy. So ultimately what we want to do is we want to change people's mindsets. Why do we want to change people's mindsets? The reason we want to change young adults' mindsets is that once we break that pattern of poverty, that pattern of spending more money than I have, then you go from financial failure to financial success. So again, thank you very much for your time tonight, and we hope you choose us to partner with.
Okay, one question?
Any questions?
Anybody?
Questions?
Okay, that's it. Thank you.